Most people already know the story of 9/11. Whether you witnessed it on live television like myself, or grew up in the post 9/11 world, the United States and the Middle East have been forever changed because of the attacks. This video is intended to be the first in a multi-part series to examine the roots of the attacks and their aftermath, starting with the man most directly responsible, Osama Bin Laden. Before becoming the most wanted terrorist in history, Osama Bin Laden was born into a wealthy and prestigious Saudi family in 1957. His father, Mohammed bin Awad bin Laden, founded what is now known as Saudi Bin Laden Group in 1931. Mohammed had close ties to the King of Saudi Arabia and was able to amass a huge fortune through government contracts. Part of this fortune was passed on to Osama when his father died in 1967. The exact amount he inherited is unknown, but is believed to have been between $25 and $50 million. He would also receive a stipend every year up until 1994, when it was ceased after pressure from the Saudi government. At that time, he was receiving $7 million a year from the stipend. Bin Laden was also well educated. He obtained a degree in civil engineering and studied English in Oxford, England as a teenager. During his primary school years, he began to form the basis of his beliefs that would ultimately lead to him waging jihad, or a holy war, against the United States and the West. The education he received was rooted in Islamic belief and espoused pan-Islamism, which is the belief that all Muslims should be united under one flag. Also during this time, Bin Laden began to cement his extremist beliefs. He began to view the West as immoral and seeking to subjugate the Muslim world, and that jihad was the only reasonable way to resist this. He began to develop a particular disdain for the United States, which he saw as the biggest threat to the Muslim world and the root of all Western evil. In 1979, the Soviet Union invaded Afghanistan, and shortly thereafter, Osama bin Laden arrived in Pakistan to start helping fund the Mujahideen fighters that were resisting the Soviet invasion. Part of his motivation was his view that the Soviets were foreign infidels and that an injustice had been committed against Afghanistan. Much of this doctrine was instilled onto bin Laden by the Muslim Brotherhood. The Muslim Brotherhood provided much of bin Laden's religious education and established his core belief in uniting the Muslim world against the West. This emphasis on Islamic belief led to bin Laden being a very dedicated and practiced Muslim. He despised music as the flute of the devil and supported the institution of Sharia law. Sharia is a form of Islamic law derived from the Quran. Bin Laden used his immense wealth to help fighters get into Afghanistan via Pakistan. He set up a route of couriers between the two countries and became familiar with the mountainous terrain. Most importantly, he formed connections with many notable people in both Afghanistan and Pakistan, many of whom would become senior leaders in Al-Qaeda or would assist Al-Qaeda's future activities. In 1988, bin Laden officially formed Al-Qaeda as a vanguard for his long-term goal of a global jihad. In 1989, the Soviets withdrew from Afghanistan, and bin Laden returned to Saudi Arabia and was celebrated as a hero for his resistance against the Soviet invasion. In 1990, Iraq invaded Kuwait, triggering the Gulf War. Bin Laden, who was worried about non-Muslim intervention, met with the future Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia and the King of Saudi Arabia to offer to raise a Muslim army of 100,000 to defend the Saudi kingdom. His offer was quickly rejected. Instead, the Saudi government welcomed U.S. troops into their nation. In the wake of the Gulf War, bin Laden was openly critical of U.S. troops being stationed in Saudi Arabia, and the Saudi government itself was also a target of his ire. This led to bin Laden being expelled from Saudi Arabia by the Saudi government. Eventually, he made his way to Sudan and establish his headquarters. From here, Bin Laden began to solidify the primary goal of Al-Qaeda: to kill Americans and wage a global jihad on the United States and its allies. In my next video, I'll be diving into the rise of Al-Qaeda throughout the 1990s, including its attacks on the United States and the beginning of the planning process for what would eventually become the September 11th attacks. In the meantime, I hope you found this video informative, and if you did, please leave a like on the video so I can reach more people. And I'll see you on the next one.